Hello everyone, I am TitanicSizedReviews, where I review movies, shows, and video games, and today I am talking about Nefarious. Nefarious is an indie movie. I would say it's basically a Christian psychological thriller. That's the best way I can describe it. I am going to try to avoid spoilers as much as possible, but there might be a few here and there, so just a heads up. And this movie is about two characters in particular. The prisoner, whose name is Edward, and the doctor, whose name is James Martin. This movie is very dialogue heavy. Not a whole lot happens scene-wise, I guess I would say. It's mostly talking. It's kind of like a very interesting lecture. I would say conversation, but it's more of a lecture between the prisoner Edward, who is also Nefarious, and Dr. James Martin. The whole premise of this movie is that the prisoner Edward, aka Nefarious, who has been possessed by the demon Nefarious, is trying to get Dr. James Martin to come see him so he can get him to kill the person he is possessing, Edward. He is also trying to get him to believe in God and the devil, and trying to convince him that he's a bad person and that he should join the side of evil. Dr. James Martin identifies as an atheist, and because of this, he doesn't believe that Edward is actually possessed by this demon Nefarious at all. He believes that he has two personalities, multiple personality disorder. There's another term for it that I'm just spacing on right now. And so they have this very long conversation. And there are moments in this conversation that don't make a whole lot of sense to me, but they're just like small parts. So overall, it doesn't take away from the story. It doesn't really ruin it. It's just certain parts that are confusing. Because at one point, Dr. Martin wants to prove to Nefarious or Edward that he's not actually possessed. And Nefarious wants to prove that he is. So he says, "Allow me inside of you. Give me permission to take control of you." And of course, at first, Dr. Martin is hesitant. Even though he's an atheist and he doesn't believe in it, he wants the proof that this is actually a demon that he's talking to and not Edward. During that part, he says that he agrees to it. He'll agree to it under a condition that he gets to request something. He never actually requests anything, so that part was kind of weird. That little part didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But whatever, it still doesn't really take away from the overall story. It's just like a minor thing that's just kind of strange. Also, when he meets Nefarious, the demon brings up all kinds of information about the doctor's life, and he doesn't really even question how he got that information when he first hears it. Like, at all. And he has a ton of information on him. That was also kind of weird that he just kind of like let that slide by till later on when they're continuing to have their conversation and he gets more heated after Nefarious brings up some things about him. I'm not going to say what. I think you should watch it and listen for yourself. It's a good movie. The conversation is very interesting. The guy who plays Nefarious, Sean Patrick Flannery, does a really good job. He's by far the best character in the whole movie. The other characters in the movie are they're a little they're not bad, by any means, but they're not as good as him. Like, when you look at them, you see him and he seems like he is actually the character he is playing. He feels real as both the demon and as Edward, because he will switch between the two during their conversation a few times. And the first time they do it, they go over like the left hand of Dr. Martin's shoulder to talk to Edward, and the right side to talk to Nefarious, which I thought was good. I kind of wish they had done that consistently throughout the movie when they switch between. They don't. They just do it like once. But it helps you determine who's who, at least. But the rest of the actors in the movie, they're good. They're just not as good as him. There's something about the way they talk that feels kind of fake. It just doesn't feel as authentic, is the word I would use. The warden, for instance, I don't really feel like he's a warden. I kind of feel like he's a fun uncle, as weird as that might sound. I think he still does a good job. I just think he puts off more of an uncle vibe than he does like I'm a hard ass who is in charge of this prison. I want this guy dead because he's weird and he's been causing issues. He's a criminal who murdered people. That's all I'm saying. But I think they all do a good job in general. There are a few parts that seem inconsistent, like the part where he brings up all this information about the doctor and he doesn't question it. The having a request but to allow him in his body but not actually giving a request. There's a part with a barber where the barber is kind of like being nice to this guy, and the guy's he's not necessarily being mean, but he's just like, no, I'm a bad guy. And then after the haircut, the barber's just like, get this freak out of my chair. Which was weird. It was kind of weird because he just kind of like switches from being nice to this dude to being a dick. That was kind of weird. There's another part where a man gets tackled by some guards. It looked a little goofy, I guess is how I would explain it. Like, it's not bad, it didn't seem realistic. That part. Like I said, it has a few things in the movie that just don't seem to like quite match up, but it's still not a bad movie. It's very entertaining. The whole conversation that they have is really interesting. It's supposed to try to get the doctor to understand God and the devil, have a better understanding of morality, the difference between right and wrong, and that there's a bigger picture and he just doesn't get it. The demon is doing this because he wants to spread his own message to the people to try to convince more people to basically be evil. That is the main purpose of him talking to this doctor. Why he chose this doctor, I don't know. Doesn't matter. He also has a book with all this information on the doctor, which they find in his cell, which is really weird. That part also kind of doesn't make sense when you think about it, because apparently he doesn't ever leave his cell. He's just in the prison. He doesn't talk to anybody outside. He doesn't have relatives. The person that the demon Nefarious is inhabiting, Edward. So I don't know how he got all this stuff that he has in there. They don't really talk about it. They're just like, oh, he has it. He has all this information. Even when you were a child, he has like pictures. It's strange. It's strange. The demon says he's like been grooming Dr. Martin his whole life, basically. Watching, just pushing him a little bit, you know. It's kind of strange. I can understand the demon watching him, pushing him, where you don't like see it throughout his life, but him getting all this like stuff, while in Edward's body is confusing. It's a little confusing. It's a little weird. It adds to the story, though. It just adds to like the background. So I kind of put up with it. Like I said, there's like little flaws like that one. But overall, it's a good movie. It's entertaining. The conversation between Nefarious and Dr. James Martin is really interesting. Nefarious, the amount of stuff that he says is crazy. It's a lot of dialogue. Very interesting. Like I said, it's not only to make the doctor trying to look at his own morality and his life decisions and the way the world is going. It's also to make you look at it, to think about it. And I think it does a good job. I think it has a message and it does a good job of it. I highly recommend watching this movie. Though I don't think it's perfect, I think it's a good movie. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching. If you liked, please click subscribe, leave a like on the video, maybe share the video. Thank you. Have a good day.